All right, so this next image that we're looking at is by Hannah. You're at ISO 1600, so a higher ISO, 18 millimeters, f4 at 1/60th of a second. I think I recommended the same thing in your last image to open up your aperture a little bit more to get more light and try to bring that ISO down. I really encourage students to shoot between 1 and 400 with their ISO. If you have to pump it up to 800, that's okay. But once we get to 1600, 3200, we start to have really negative effects. So especially as you're photographing an adult, if you could have him sit down so there's not going to be any movement, or like rest his arm on something so he's nice and still, you might be able to get away with a longer shutter speed as well. So this light that you have in this image is not hard light. This is soft light. So we have light that's coming through the window. It's illuminating the front of his face, but we see that it slowly moves to shadow. So there's no hard line here like we see in an image like this where we have the hard shadow. This is soft light coming in through the window, probably partially because it's being bounced off of this wall as well. So it's moving around the light before it hits, being more diffused. So photographing at a different time of day, or maybe even the same time of day, but at a different window in your house, would allow you to have hard light on him. Hard light is when the sun's coming directly through the window, not on a cloudy day, not coming from above the house and around, but the light is shining directly through the window. So this is showing a soft light, not hard light. See if you have any images that have hard light here. No, they're all soft light. You can see the shadow as he turns his head on his shoulder there, that shadow shows you even more clearly that this is soft light as well. So you have stronger light because he's closer to the window than you had in your previous images. You have much, much better exposure than you had in your other images, but this image still shows soft light. Here, again, we have a high ISO at 3200, so I would bring that down if you can. 19 millimeters, f4.1 at 1/50th of a second. This image is about a stop underexposed, maybe 2 stops underexposed actually, somewhere in that space underexposed. The light that is hitting your subject here is soft light. So similar to what we saw in the last image. If this was hard light, the last image by Hannah, if this was hard light and he's looking through the blinds, we would have the lines of the blinds on his face, as we see in this image, or this image where you're getting those lines. Here, we don't see any lines. The light is coming through, it's soft light illuminating his face, and then slowly falling off. We have darker shadows here. That's partially because it's underexposed, but we don't have shadows like in the wrinkles of his shirt. We're not getting hard light here, but softer light. So again, you want to wait until the sun is directly outside the window and pouring through the window, and that's when you're going to get the shadows, the hard light, the strongest light coming through the window. See if there's any images here with hard light. Doesn't look like they're all soft light here. So again, you would want to reshoot this, which you both are welcome to do in order to get hard light. This image is by Leah. You're at ISO 400, 30 millimeters, f5.6 at 1/100th of a second. You have your kids, I'm assuming, on the ground in the living room, and we have the light coming in from the window. We have brighter light coming in. We can see the brightness over here, but as we're looking for the hard versus soft light, this is on the softer side of the spectrum. The light is coming across the face and then fills in these shadows. If this was hard light, we would have kind of a line here, expressing the light here and then the shadow here. As we see here, the hard light's coming in, there's a line here, here's the bright area, here's the shadowed area, and it's a hard line making that separation. Here we're not seeing that. We have soft light coming all the way across their face. Again, here it's brighter here and then it comes across, but the shadow is not a hard shadow, it's a soft shadow coming through. So this again is soft light. In these images, this is definitely still soft light that we're looking at. This doesn't look like this is natural light. This looks like this is artificial light, but this is harder light. This is on the harder side of the spectrum as far as hard to soft light. So I would encourage you to photograph again to get an image with hard light and work on your focus here. Nothing in this image is in focus. It's a fast enough shutter speed that everything should be still. And it also looks like your images are really pixelated. So it looks like you have a small image that you're enlarging to size it to the 2000. And if I look in this area, I just see a bunch of squares. So it's very pixelated. And as I blow that up, it's even more clear that they're just little squares there. I cannot see that smooth gradient. And then this is the last image that we have. This is by Alicia. And we're at ISO 100, 18 millimeters, f7.1 at 1/5 of a second. So here at 1/5 of a second, you're not on a tripod and we have a lot of movement happening. So we would want you to set up on a tripod for this image if you're going to shoot at 1/5 of a second. You can also have a faster shutter speed by opening up your aperture more. So instead of shooting it at f7.1, you could shoot it at f3.5, and then you have at least three more stops of light, and then you could add that back to your shutter speed, right? So then you could have a faster shutter speed. So that would be from 1/5 of a second to 1/10 to 1/20th to 1/40th of a second, which might be fast enough for you to be able to like really steady yourself, maybe lean up against something, exhale, and take a picture and have a still image. But right now we have a lot of movement in this image and we need to see nice sharp images for class. As far as the light goes, is this hard or soft light? This is softer light on your subject. We can see the lights coming through the blinds, but the light on him is soft, right? We don't have any hard shadows. So again, working when the light is coming directly through the window in order to get that hard light. You want to photograph instead of as it's kind of diffused through the window, maybe on the opposite side of the house, the light's coming straight through the window, and that's when we would get hard light. Looking at your contact sheet, we have images that are really underexposed and images that are really overexposed. So you want to make sure that you're really judging your exposure by that meter in your camera. Let me pull that up. I'm going to pause this and bring this back up. All right, so as you're looking through your lens, you're going to see this sort of thing at the bottom of your viewfinder, right? As you're looking through the viewfinder that goes through the lens, you're going to see this at the bottom. And what we want is that we want this little tick right here to be in the middle. You want to have neutral images by having that in the middle. That's what we're looking for when you're metering your image. We want to always have the meter at neutral in order to get the proper exposure. That will avoid this problem of having overexposed and underexposed images. So make sure that you're carefully watching that meter for every shot and adjusting your shutter speed and aperture to have that neutral. Now there will be times where you'll push it and overexpose it and you'll underexpose it. But right now, until we start to see solid exposures from you on a regular basis, I want you just to shoot it in the middle. So not where it is here, where it's overexposed, but right here.